Throughout history, people have strived for new and evolving philosophies and movements. These philosophies are known as isms. Today, we'll take a journey through these movements, exploring examples in and around Melbourne to understand what underpins art itself and extending these ideas to modern day and the electronic arts. Neoclassicism started during the mid-18th century and would gain its prominence in the early 19th century. Neoclassicism would find its basis in advocating for the return to order and rationality of classical antiquity, particularly that of ancient Greece and Rome. It became closely associated with political movements of the time, such as the American and French revolutions, which embraced classical virtues of democracy, civil duty, and patriotism. Neoclassical artists of the time would strive to create clarity, order, and logic in their works through using geometrical lines and forced perspectives to form a rationality in realism. Neoclassical architecture is seen all over Melbourne, marked by its use of classical Greek and Roman elements like columns and domes, emphasising symmetry and simplicity. It became a favoured style for civic buildings, conveying ideals of order, democracy, and authority. Cubism is an early 20th century, highly influential avant-garde movement involving the unique and interchangeable perspectives of the viewer's interpretation in works of art. Originating in France, Cubism proved to be a pivotal movement in art history, with pioneers such as Pablo Picasso leading this movement. The presence of Cubism had a profound impact on Surrealism, Futurism, and Abstract Expressionism. The most defining characteristic of Cubism is the artist fragmenting objects into geometric shapes, depicting subjects in art from multiple perspectives in a single plane. Primitivism as a concept is based on Western society's fascination with artistic works of non-Western societies. It is less of an artistic movement and closer to the trend among artists looking back upon the classical works as an industrialized society became the norm. It originates from the early 20th century, particularly interested in indigenous and oceanic works, believing these to be a more authentic and pure way of expression. Primitivism often involves simplified forms of objects alongside vibrant colours and abstract forms, attempting to stray as far away as possible from the traditional works of the West. Seeking an escape from the subtlety and constraints of Impressionism, artists in the early 20th century turned to Fauvism to embrace a more radical approach with vivid, unrestrained colours and bold, simplified forms that prioritised emotional impact over realistic representation. The movement's name, derived from the French word wild beast, reflects the group's intent to break free from traditional artistic norms and explore more instinctive and expressive use of colour. They often employed broad, forceful brushstrokes and ignored the constraints of naturalistic perspectives, focusing instead on conveying mood and emotion. The result was a dynamic, sometimes chaotic visual experience that challenged the viewer's expectations and paved way for further experimentation in modern art. Constructivism emerged from Russia in the early 20th century with the principles of functionalism at heart. It was a movement committed to using art as a tool for social change, and this was done through the design of functional buildings with modern materials. Constructivists often created their work to reject the notion that art itself was exclusively decorative. Constructivist architects would use materials such as steel, glass, and reinforced concrete. This was done to showcase modern technology in order to create functional structures that served as dual purpose, something that hadn't been previously considered possible. Here, we see an embodiment of constructivism at the Melbourne Museum. The building is largely composed of glass and steel, highlighting the constructivist emphasis on transparency and industrialisation. The museum's bold, geometric lines and colossal open spaces emphasise utility, while exposed framework and visible supports are a way of celebrating modern construction through techniques that previously have not been achievable. Futurism originated in Italy in the early 1900s, revolving around the Futurist Manifesto and embodying a distinctive set of ideas. At its core, Futurism was a movement based on the ideas of speed, technology, modernity, urbanisation, war, and most importantly, rejection of the past. Futurist architects embrace new materials such as steel, glass, and concrete in an attempt to leave traditional architecture behind. Here we can see the depiction of futurism local to Melbourne, the Webb Bridge found in the Docklands. It is largely made up of concrete and steel, materials of the futurism movement. The tubular weaving structure that encases the user suggests a more fluid architecture, emphasising the movement itself. It mimics organic life forms, featuring twists and turns and a sense of randomness to the path alongside the webs above the user. Surrealism emerged in the early 1920s as a cultural movement that delved into the depths of the unconscious mind, dreams, and irrational, influenced by the psychoanalytic theories of Sigmund Freud and Dadaist rejections of the conventional logic. Surrealist works often present bizarre, dreamlike scenarios that challenge conventional conceptions of reality. Originally manifested in visual art and literature, Surrealism explores the interplay between reality and the subconscious, aiming to uncover hidden truths and disrupt ordinary thinking. Surrealist artists employ techniques like unexpected juxtapositions to provoke new insights and challenge boundaries by conventional logic. By pushing the limits of reality and rationality, Surrealism seeks to inspire a deeper understanding of human experience and creativity. Dadaism is a movement with explicitly political overtones, formed during the First World War to portray negative reactions to the horrors and chaos of the war. Dadaism is often satirical, nonsensical, and irrational in nature, intending to process the logic and reason of the modern world through the artist's works. Originally, Dadaism was expressed through performance arts, but gradually spanned to visual, literary, and sound media, as more and more artists began to express their discontent for the war and nationalism maintained by radical politics. The nonsensical and chaotic characteristics of Dadaism are meant to oppose the cultural and intellectual conformity Dada artists believes were perpetuating the war. Throughout history, isms have shaped and redefined art and culture. Our exploration of movements around Melbourne revealed the core principles behind artistic expression, which continues to evolve with society and the electronic arts. This journey shows art remaining a dynamic force, always reflecting on the expanding human experience.